Okay, welcome back. So the GOP just released its rules package for the 119th Congress, and it's a pretty standard affair. This happens every single Congress, and I figured I'd make a video about it just to go over the highlights and the key points that are in there because there's a few interesting tidbits in there. But before the GOP even vote on the rules package, they still have to vote for a Speaker of the House. So that election is still scheduled for January the 3rd, and as of today, which is the 2nd, Mike Johnson still doesn't have the number of votes, at least publicly, that he needs to secure the gavel. He needs 218 votes. I actually made a video about it. I'll link that video down below so you can go check that out. But the bottom line here is that without having that 218 votes, Mike Johnson doesn't get the gavel. And so there's folks that are still holding out. There's folks that have said no, but he's going to have to start making concessions. He's going to have to start making promises to his far right flank before he can probably get that speaker gavel. Now, the general consensus is that, yeah, he probably has enough votes maybe after the first or second round, but we'll see what happens. McCarthy took over a dozen tries to get the speaker. So we'll see how that plays out. But looking at the rules package here, the biggest thing here is instead of having any single House member being able to force a vote, and they're talking about this motion to vacate, which is basically a measure to force a vote to oust the speaker. Instead of having that at one vote, which it was in last Congress, now that's going to be moved up to 9. So it's going to be someone has to introduce it, so that's 1, and then you need 8 additional GOP co-sponsors. And look, I think this is a solid move from a strategy standpoint, just because last Congress, having a single person like a Matt Gaetz be able to initiate that motion to vacate, it really does put the sword of Damocles above the speakership. And with such a thin majority, there's going to be times that the speaker is going to have to upset his coalition. And so having this bumped up to 9 gives him a little more breathing room. The change is a result of a deal struck between House Republican factions back in November as the GOP met to renominate Speaker Mike Johnson. And yeah, I mean, look, this at the end of the day is something that Mike Johnson's going to have to do. He's going to have to make these deals. He's going to have to make concessions to the far right flank in order for him to actually get anything done. The package is 36 pages. We already talked about it. Another big one is formally dissolving the Congressional Diversity and Inclusion Office. This is something that's happened. Oh, actually, the article says it here. The funding for this office was already gutted. I mean, look, the GOP doesn't really care about diversity and inclusion. They've been very critical of this office. And so what they're doing is removing the funding for it, but then also absorbing it into this Office of Talent Management. Democrats had hoped to revive it if they won back the House majority. Obviously, that didn't happen. But so what's interesting here is that even though they have defunded and basically got rid of the D&I office, there are a couple other workplace issues that are included within this bill. Specifically, GOP offices need to institute a anti-harassment and anti-discriminatory policies within every office. And so what folks, you might not know is the office, the House doesn't have a traditional HR office that most companies have and other government agencies have. Every office is its own fiefdom, and they can create rules and they can uphold rules, whether it's scheduling and time cards, it's pay, anything you name from an administrative standpoint. Any office controls that themselves. There's no rules. But within this 36-page document, we have a requirement asking them to establish these types of things. The rules package also changes the name of the House Committee on Oversight. Okay, no one really cares about that. Now, the biggest thing here isn't necessarily increasing the number to 9. to establish that motion to vacate. I think the biggest issue here is that the provision states that a resolution to vacate the House speakership shall not be privileged except if it's offered by a member of the majority party and has accumulated 8 co-sponsors from the majority party at the time it was offered. This is pretty big because in previous Congresses, literally anyone could do the motion to vacate. Anyone can call that up. What this is saying, what these new rules are instituting, is that member, these 9 members, have to be from the GOP. So this means that Democrats can't do it. That means that independents can't do it. I mean, if there are any in this new Congress, this is a pretty big deal. So Jim McGovern, who's the ranking member on the Rules Committee, this would be the first time in American history that would shield the speaker from accountability to the entire chamber by making it so that only Republicans can move to oust the speaker. I mean, this is a pretty big deal. I think this isn't getting a lot of attention as it should, but maybe after the speakership it will. So the other thing that this bill does is introduce 12 bills that they want to vote on at the start of the new Congress. And this is a big deal just because it's a messaging of where their priorities are going to be at, where their heads are going to be at, and what they're focused on. If you look at what Jim McGovern has said about this, the bills included in the rules package, apparently Republicans' top priorities. They're also the clearest window yet into their agenda for the next 2 years. According to McGovern's office, nothing to help workers. There's nothing in there to bring down grocery prices, nothing to lower rent or make housing more affordable, nothing on inflation or healthcare costs. If you go through that list, you'll see, or go through that 36-page document, you'll see the list of bills that are included in there. And, quite honestly, look, McGovern's right. They don't really talk about any economic issues or any grocery prices or helping workers or anything like that. A lot of it's focused on these cultural battle things. And so looking at this, amend the education amendment to provide that for the purposes of determining compliance with Title IX of such activities in athletics. Yeah, this is like a anti-trans bill based solely on the person's reproductive biology. They give more power to DHS on immigration, more immigration stuff. Some of this stuff is a mixed bag, and I think is going to get a lot of positivity or negativity based on where you're coming from. But for example, it amends the Immigration and Nationality Act that aliens who have been convicted of or who have committed sex offenses or domestic violence are inadmissible or deportable. A lot of it is geared towards trans issues, immigration, abortion, these big messaging bills, these big cultural war things that the Republicans have been talking about over the last 18 to 24 months. Interesting, in a bill to amend the IRS code to provide special rules for the taxation of certain residents of Taiwan with income from sources within the United States. There's just a lot of different things in here. So that's largely within the document. I encourage everyone to read it. It's 36 pages. Put it in a ChatGPT and summarize it for you. But I think it's a good document to show you where the GOP's head's at, what they're going to be focusing on, and how they want to achieve their agenda going forward. We'll see what happens. Again, they still have to vote on that speaker. That's tomorrow, and we'll see what happens there. So this was a quick one. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.